Welcome into Jags A.M. Training camp continues. A scrimmage scheduled for today. We're in studio here for you on Jags A.M. as we get ready for the second preseason game on Sunday against the Saints, but still a couple more days of practice before we get to that. Welcome into studio. Here are the Hyundai Studios. I'm Kainani Stevens. John Oehser is with me. We also have a special guest host I'll introduce in a minute. But let's start out with our big things presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association. Big thing number one is the scrimmage I mentioned. This is going to be the second scrimmage we've seen during training camp. A little bit different. They're treating it like an actual game. And going to get some advice from our guest host today, David Garrard, former Jaguars quarterback. David, welcome to the show. And it's a little bit unusual to see scrimmages like this. We don't see them very often. Did you experience that at all when you played? And how does that help a quarterback?
Yeah, I think they're probably having multiple scrimmages because you're just lacking so many preseason games like you used to do back in the day. So this is an opportunity to see your starters in situations that you can actually put them in and see how they perform, but also get some of the young guys in situations because you start to lose the opportunity to get them in preseason games to get meaningful snaps. So I think it's a great thing, and I'm sure more teams are going to be doing this around the league.
Yeah, I agree, David. And I think the second factor in this, they would have liked, I think, to have had two joint practices, meaning they have one against the Dolphins. I think they would have liked, in the future, we'll try to get another, because I know Liam Cohen likes that. This is a way, I think, to sort of simulate a little more game action, get a little more of that intensity maybe you'd have gotten from a joint practice. But it's interesting. I'm not sure I've ever been around a team that's had two real scrimmages during the preseason. So I'm wondering if that's a trend going forward. I think, as David said, it might be with the three preseason games.
Our second big thing today is going to be second look. We talked a little bit about what we saw from the starters in that first game earlier this week, but it was only for one drive on offense and 1.5 for some of the defensive players. John, what are we looking forward to in this second look? Obviously, this might be the last time we see the starters because there's only 3 preseason games. What do you kind of have your eye out for in the second look, in the second preseason game?
Yeah, it's so hard to know because usually you judge how you're going to see preseason based on what the coach has done before. And this is Liam's first time through this. I would think this might be the last look because you got a joint practice next week against Miami. A lot of coaches pull the starters out of that because they feel like they've gotten the work in that joint practice. So you would assume that, and then you would assume maybe a couple of series to try to get a feel for these guys that you couldn't. They got to play more than one because you have to have a little bit of an adjustment. So maybe 3 series. I doubt through halftime. That doesn't feel right to me. But we'll see. Davey, you just don't know at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan now, so I want to see my starters. I want to see them go out and operate. I think it's a good thing for them to go out and have multiple preseason games that they play in. And I'm starting to see a trend where more teams are starting to play more of their starters. I mean, Joe Burrow played in the first preseason game. You didn't see that kind of thing the last, 5 years, honestly. So I like it. I think guys need more opportunity to get the season started. You've already eliminated one preseason game. So get your starters out there for at least 2 quarters, maybe never go into the third quarter just because you feel like you've, kept everybody healthy and you can finish in the first quarter. But give them some time to play together so that they can start the season fast and strong and not come limping into the season like they have the last few seasons.
Our final big thing today is going to be happy campers. There's about 2 weeks left at this point until they cut the roster down and things kind of wrap up for training camp. David, I know things were different when you played. Obviously, you had 2 days, so it was a little bit different for training camp. But what's the perspective of a player at this point? Obviously, it's a long training camp, dog days at this point. What are the players' mindset at this point?
Yeah, being that old guy, I am a little jealous that there's only one practice, and I think there might be a second practice that's not a practice, just a walkthrough. But, their mindset is they're excited that camp is finally breaking. If it is truly like a camp where they're in a hotel and locked over there and they can't see their family, guys would always, 3 or 4 weeks in, start getting excited to be able to get back to their kids and their wives and those kind of things just to break up the monotony of camp. But this one that they're doing now, I feel like they kind of can stay in it for a little bit and continue to work on meshing as a unit, meshing as a team. But usually their mindset is, we made it through another one, and now we've got to see who's sticking to the roster and who's not. And that's never a fun time, but it's a necessary time.
Yeah, I think the next couple of weeks are realistically for this team more about trying to mesh, more about trying to get ready. Liam Cohen I think it was Monday, talked about, they probably know their first 50, 51 guys right now. And then they're trying to figure out who's going to be on the practice squad, what those last couple of roster spots that you sort of play with are going to look like. But we saw in the scrimmage, this team still needs to mesh under new head coach, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, new GM. There's still some camaraderie and some chemistry to be gained. So it feels like that's what this is. And 2 more weeks of, I guess it's the dog days. I guess there's dog days still in training camp.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
No more dog days, just 2 more weeks.
I thought I'd get some pushback.
Yeah.
All right, stick with us. We're going to talk to David Garrard a little bit about that first preseason game and also preview the Saints matchup this weekend. Welcome back to Jags A.M, brought to you by Fields Auto Group. See Fields first, Jacksonville's premier luxury auto group. Head over to fieldsauto.com. Welcome back in. We've got David Garrard with us today. So we're going to pick your brain a little bit as we talk about that first preseason game, also kind of the experience of training camp a little bit. So when we look at this, a lot of new faces around here in Jacksonville, but one of the familiar ones is Trevor Lawrence entering his 5th season, but a lot of change for him, right? 3 different coaching staffs, 3 different offensive systems. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of change in terms of systems. So how difficult is that as a quarterback to pick up a new system?
It can be pretty difficult because every system can be totally different. You can be speaking Spanish one day and then all of a sudden you're speaking English or Chinese. Like it's just a totally different language, and you really have to put in a ton of work, like at home. He's married, so he's got a wife that can sit there and call plays to him so he can repeat it back to her. These are things that me and my wife did many a times. And you have to, because you're trying to get yourself familiar with the verbiage so that when you're in the huddle, the guys know exactly that you have it 100% down. Now, they can struggle a little bit with what's being said, but the quarterback can't. So it's very important for you to know that language that you're speaking and be able to enunciate it and get it to the guys clearly.
And David, how important, I assume there's learning the system and then there's applying the system. Once the pads go on and once, the bullets fly, or however you want to call it, is it different in a new system once it gets real and you've really got to use what you've learned? Is there a process that Trevor's going through right now?
Yeah, he's really trying to figure out the best way that when he hears the call that he is going to be able to go out and produce as easily and functional for him as possible. Because if he's not on, then it's hard to get anybody else on because he's the one that's got to, get the ball to everybody. So you want to make sure as a quarterback that you're prepared and that you're ready to go, but not just mentally, but also physically, and also making sure your teammates are ready to go. Mm-hmm. So if he has to have meetings where he calls in the whole offense or just the receivers, or maybe the running backs are struggling with something, he's got to make sure, coming from a coach, that he's also being a coach and going in. Sometimes he'll stop in the running backs room, see what they're going over so that he can tell them, oh, this is what I'm thinking on this. What are you thinking on this? And he'll go into every room and do that because you have to. You have to make sure the O-line is on the same page, receivers, running backs, tight ends, all of them. And then you go sit in with the coaches. So you're another coach out there on the field and when you're in the locker room and the meeting rooms.
Running back room is one we've been focusing on. There's a lot of some new faces, some old faces, a lot of competition in that group. Liam Cohen has said his focus is really establishing the run and taking some of that pressure off Trevor. Obviously, you've played with some good running backs yourself. Mm-hmm. How much does that help you when you kind of know what you're getting from those guys so you can kind of expect something from them and take a little bit of pressure off yourself?
Yeah, I love the running back room because you have so many different dynamic running backs. You got ETN who can rush, he can also catch very well, and he's real fluid and smooth when he's on the field. Tank Bigsby type back that is more bruising downhill, but also still has the speed to take off. Tootin, who just has the speed and can outrun anybody, and every coach will tell you speed kills. So anytime you can get those kind of guys on the field, and even Allen, the other bigger back, is huge, because you want to make sure your quarterback has somebody that he can rely on. I can just turn around, hand this ball to you, and know that you can take it 40, 50 yards and take some of that pressure off me. Just look at the Philadelphia Eagles with Saquon Barkley. I mean, when you can have a back that can take some of the stress off of the offense, off of the quarterback, and they can go put the ball in the end zone, it's huge. So we definitely need this group to perform well this year.
Something I've talked a lot about this week, David. The other night, when Tootin scored in the second half and the team sort of carried him into the end zone, if you will. It wasn't quite like that, but the offensive line pushed him in. I may be making too much out of it, but it really seemed, the reaction afterward, as much as Liam Cohen has talked about the running game, it seemed very symbolic, and it seemed like a sign that this team was buying into that whole idea of we've got to be more physical. Anything to that? Did you like seeing that? And can a team sort of embrace that sort of thing this early?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what training camp is for, is to build that camaraderie, to build guys that are trying to work together, that are trying to, pull and push in the same direction. And so that's what you want. That's what you need. Just like when our kicker hit that 70-yarder.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you see Travis Hunter, the first guy down there to go give him a big chest bump. I mean, those.
He almost jumped as high as you did when you were playing.
He jumped way higher than I did. So, but that's what you want. Those are the things. That's the galvanizing. All those things happen now. When you see the Chiefs and all these other teams in the Super Bowl, it's because of these moments in training camp, them figuring it all out, and everybody buying in to being on the same page to move in the same direction. That's what's got to happen. And anytime you can get those moments, it doesn't matter who it is. Guys don't care who it is. I mean, I wasn't the starter my whole time when I played, but when I got out there, guys were pulling for me to go out there and perform. So whoever's out there, as long as you're putting the ball in the end zone, you're making plays, you're the guy that is that's got the energy, that juice that guys want to go out there and rally behind and play for, they'll do it. Doesn't matter who you are.
I did want to touch on the offensive line room. This feels like the first season we've had in a while where there's a ton of competition in that group. What, as a quarterback, is it just time on task to get that trust with your offensive line? What does it take to get to that?
Yeah, it is. It's that, but it's really just believing in them, knowing that they can get the job done, because, when you're playing quarterback, you can't think about what they're doing. You're thinking about how not to get hit and protect yourself and all that kind of stuff. But once the ball is snapped, it's on them to do their job. And you want to make sure that you have the best five. The coaches have figured out who's the best out there, especially for my left tackle, because I can't see what's going on back there. So I need to make sure that you've got it down, and coaches understand, like, if somebody's struggling in that area, if it is little that's struggling or whatever it is, they'll help him. They'll protect him. They'll put the tight end to his side more. They'll slide the line to his side. So there's ways to help, because sometimes when you get a rookie that comes in, you want to make sure that you're just not leaving them on an island. So there's ways to help, especially tackles. But you want to make sure you have the five, and then they play together as much and as long as possible, because there are times when a call isn't going to be made, but you need to make sure, or that person needs to know, this is what I'm supposed to be doing in this situation. Even though nobody said it, I'm ready for it, and that you just got to have just the ultimate trust in your O-line.
Knowing your responsibilities,
yes,
for sure. Stay with us here on Jags A.M. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit about that second preseason game as we head to New Orleans this weekend. Jags A.M. brought to you by Sudeth Moving and Storage, Florida's most trusted and dependable moving company. Sudeth, proud to be the official moving company of the Jacksonville Jaguars. To get a guaranteed quote, visit sudeth.com/Jacksonville. Welcome back into Jags A.M. Preseason underway, the scrimmage underway in training camp today, but we're going to talk a little bit quickly about that second preseason matchup that's coming up this weekend. Normally the Jaguars play Friday, Saturday, something like that. They're going to be playing Sunday at 1. It's going to be like a real deal as we head to New Orleans this weekend. and taking on a franchise that's in a similar spot in terms of new coaching staff. We don't have a new quarterback, but they'll have a new quarterback as well. So lots of change going on for them. But Kellen Moore, who was the offensive coordinator with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, they're obviously going to be trying to be offensively focused, as many teams are in the 2025 NFL. But I feel like there's, at least here, there's an excitement to see what the team will actually look like, right? So I'm assuming New Orleans is in a similar situation where, John, they don't necessarily know their identity yet, but this is when they're finally, for the first time, kind of seeing how this team will be built going forward.
Yeah, they finally had to hit reset. I mean, they were a franchise for years with Breeze. They kept playing it out, sort of mortgaging the future, as you say. They even, because of their salary cap, and I'm looking at it from a distance, but because of their salary cap, they sort of had to keep sort of patchworking it for a while. And then this year they finally said, okay, we have to make a change and move this thing forward. It feels like rebuilding there with a first-year quarterback. In preseason, David, realistically, you're looking more at the team you're covering. So I'm fascinated really to see what we talked about earlier, how the Jaguars will play starters, how they will approach this. Do they have this feel like their preseason warm-up? Meaning, there's always a dress rehearsal game. Mm-hmm. For you guys, it was always week 3 because you wanted to not play in week 4. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see how much this is a dress rehearsal for the Jaguars.
When we're looking at, we talked a little bit about Tyler Shuck, who's actually 1 week older than Trevor Lawrence, which will be interesting considering the new college landscape.
And he's a rookie. Right.
That's what I mean. He's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's coming in. Trevor's into year 5. Shuck is into year 1. When you're coming in a little bit older, is it, I mean, I guess we'll find out on Sunday, but what's the learning curve? How was it for you coming in and kind of trying to learn that NFL offense? Did you feel prepared for it when you came in?
Yeah, so when I came in, once again, it was old school. We're always going to be saying old school when we're talking about me, but it was a more old school kind of way. You played at least 4 years of college football, and if you redshirted like I did, it was 5 years of college football because they wanted to have a more veteran guy coming into the league and not a young pup that they would have to kind of learn and figure out how to play NFL ball and all that kind of stuff. But the way that the college game is and the way that the NFL game is, they're kind of getting closer and closer together. I mean, you can see in the pros, everybody's in shotgun all the time already now. So, and in college, they don't even know how to go under center. So that's just how the game is. And I'm okay with it. I used to be the grumpy old guy that would say, get under center and what are we doing here? We're teaching these college guys, bad habits and all this kind of stuff. But as long as the game is fun, they're putting points up, quarterbacks are making plays. When I was coming out, you did not talk the same way that these NFL teams are talking with their language and that kind of stuff. There might be some similarities here and there, but our 100 plays compared to their 350 plays, it's a big difference. You're like, how can you add that many more plays? But you can, and they did. So it is interesting. It is pretty cool. But I think with Shuck, he's going to be that kind of older, young vet rookie guy that can come in and hopefully handle things a little better than, say, a 21-year-old. But, it's always, what are you doing on the field? That's what it always comes down to. We can talk about it all right now in the preseason, and you can look great in the preseason. But when real bullets start flying in week 1, that's when we're going to get a true idea of how good these guys are.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to get to start right away, so we'll get a look at that on Sunday. Stay with us here. We'll tell you what's coming up the rest of the week before the game on Sunday. Jags fans, you want customized Jaguars furniture for your home? Check out zipchair.com to browse all the customizable options. ZipChair is furniture for fans. Welcome back into Jags A.M. We're going to talk a little bit about Cut Day, which is, I think, 10 days away at this point, 11 maybe. If not coming Tuesday, the next Tuesday. Liam Cohen talked earlier this week, and he said in his mind he's got 50 of the 53 kind of figured out. So, David, just want to use your experience a little bit. At this edge of the this point in the preseason, what are players kind of trying to make a mark on their last kind of opportunities to show the coach what they got?
Yeah, I mean, it's the last opportunities of you being able to make that mark so that coaches remember you and say, we need to have this guy on our roster. So it is a big moment for a lot of guys. You know, I honestly never had to go through any kind of cut situation like that. Well, at the cut times, I did, if anybody remembers. But
you were at lunch.
Well, we did have lunch. So, you know, but it is testy. Even when you are a starter, even when you are a guy that's not worried as much, you still kind of have it in the back of your mind because you start hearing of other guys that are vets that you're like, ooh, that guy's pretty good, and he just got let go. So it's always in the back of your mind for everybody. But when you're a young guy, when you get to these moments, you just have to stay within yourself, make sure that you're putting in a ton of extra reps before and after practice as much as you can so that when your number is called, you're able to go out there and just make a play or two so that the coaches say, we can't cut this guy. This guy is making plays for us. I mean, Terrell Davis has kind of the most unbelievable, you know, last day of cut situation. He's in the final preseason game. He's not making the team. The coaches have already kind of told him he's not. So just go out there and have fun, son, and do whatever you can do. Goes down and makes a huge hit on a guy on kickoff, and he makes a team through special teams. Because of that hit on the last preseason game, this guy turns out to be a Hall of Fame player, which is unbelievable in so many different ways. But that right there just tells you you can do it, and you can go on and have a great career, not just make a team one year.
Yeah, I think one thing to remember now, it's so much different than when I started covering the league when you played, is that there's now 16 guys on the practice squad rather than 6.
Yeah.
So the reality of the last cut has become, and I think it's a really positive for the league and the players, by the way, it's less about, you know, when you get that knock on the door. For a lot of these guys, the career is not ending. It just means they're not going to be making as much money that first week.
Yeah.
And then they're still going to have a chance to develop, which is
Huge.
It's been a major improvement. It also takes, you know, it's obviously a huge deal to make the final roster. But so much of the roster now, 5 or 6 or 7 of these guys are on the practice squad, wind up getting moved up. You're sort of a, you know, an auxiliary part of the team, if you will. So it's not like you're necessarily saying goodbye to these guys. A lot of these guys will still contribute. That said, when you make that roster, it's still a big deal for these kids, and it's still a cool story that day when they make that 53.
Absolutely. Tough decisions, but very exciting for those that make the 53. So we're going to head to New Orleans this weekend. Our second preseason game will be back next week to recap everything for you here on Jags A.M.